It's not the oil. Yeah, so they drain it wrong. Most people don't know that, not even close.
That's the one thing they don't want you to know. Not the oil brand, not the viscosity, not the full synthetic label you keep paying extra for. Something much smaller. Something that costs less than $1, but decides whether your engine dies at 120,000 miles or quietly reaches 500,000. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most engines don't fail because of bad oil. They fail because of what stays behind after the oil change. And this is where it gets dangerous. Because what you're about to hear isn't a product. It's not something you can buy. It's something you've been doing wrong this entire time. Here's the first clue. The $1 trick isn't what you add to your engine. It's when you drain your oil. That's it. Simple. Almost too simple. And that's exactly why it's ignored. But here's where most people make the mistake that ruins everything. They shut off the engine, wait, then change the oil. And in that short wait, you've already lost. Because inside your engine, something invisible is happening. Contamination. Not dramatic, not obvious, but constant. Tiny particles, carbon, fuel dilution, moisture, all of it floating in your oil. And here's the key. Oil doesn't destroy contamination, it carries it. Now imagine this. Your engine is running, everything is moving, oil is circulating fast, all that debris is suspended, floating. Now you turn the engine off, everything stops, and within minutes, gravity takes over. Particles settle, stick to surfaces, drop into corners, coat internal parts. And now when you drain the oil, you're not removing everything, you're removing what's left floating, not what already settled. That's the silent damage. And this is where engines start losing lifespan without the driver ever knowing. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this isn't new. This wasn't discovered recently. Engineers knew this decades ago. Military operators, heavy machinery crews, fleet managers, people who couldn't afford engine failure. They didn't just change oil, they controlled what happened before the drain, because they understood something simple. The cleaner the removal, the longer the engine survives. And this is the part nobody talks about. The global oil industry is worth over $150 billion. Think about that. Every few thousand miles, drain, replace, upgrade, repeat. New formulas, better protection, long life technology. But none of those fix this one moment, the moment right before the oil leaves the engine. Because there's no money in that. You can't package it, you can't brand it, you can't sell timing. So it stays hidden, not because it's secret, but because it's too simple. Now here's the shift. Instead of thinking, what oil should I use? You start asking, how do I remove contamination completely? Because engine life isn't decided by what you add, it's decided by what you remove. And this is where two identical engines take completely different paths. Same oil, same car, same maintenance schedule. One, cold engine, delayed drain, partial removal. The other, full circulation, immediate action, maximum extraction. At first, no difference. At 50,000 miles, still smooth. At 100,000, barely noticeable. But past 150,000, that's where the gap begins. And this is the exact point where most engines start declining, quietly. One begins to burn oil, lose efficiency, develop friction. The other, still stable, still clean, still controlled. And by 300,000 miles, it's not even close anymore. Because this isn't about oil quality, it's about process. Now, here's where most people think, okay, I'll just warm the engine before changing oil. And this is where they get it wrong again. Because warming the engine is only half the technique. What you do in the next 60 seconds is what decides everything. And this is where 90% of engines get damaged right after doing everything correctly. Because people hear this and assume they understand it. They don't. Not fully. Here's mistake number 1. They warmed the engine, but not enough. Your engine needs to reach true operating temperature, not just the dashboard needle moving, not just 2 minutes of idling. Oil heats slower than coolant, and until it's fully warm, it won't carry contamination effectively. So, professionals don't guess. They drive the car 5 to 10 minutes, calm, controlled, letting oil flow through bearings, pistons, camshafts, everywhere contamination hides. Now, here's mistake number 2, and this one destroys the entire process. They warm the engine, then wait. They grab tools, they get distracted, they delay, and in those few minutes, everything starts settling again. This is critical. Preparation happens first, before the engine is turned off. Everything ready, drain pan in place, tools aligned, no delay. Because timing here is everything. You shut the engine off, and immediately you drain. Not after 5 minutes, not after 10, immediately. This is the window where oil is still active, still carrying debris, still capable of removing what matters. Now, here's mistake number 3. People think let it drip longer equals cleaner engine. Not exactly. The first 30 to 60 seconds, that's where most contamination exits, fast, pressurized, loaded. After that, you're mostly removing residual oil. Important, yes, but not the main threat. Now, here's what professionals do differently. They don't just drain, they read the flow. Strong stream at first, dark, dense. Then it shifts, lighter, slower, cleaner. That shift tells you you've removed the bulk of contaminants. But here's the part almost nobody knows. After draining, some mechanics slightly adjust the vehicle angle, just a small tilt. Why? Because oil pans have pockets, hidden areas, places where oil collects and stays behind. Over time, those pockets become contamination zones. Now, let's talk about the oil filter, because this is mistake number 4. Most people treat it like a replace and forget part, but it holds dirty oil, and timing matters. Drain first, let pressure drop, then remove the filter. This reduces backflow, prevents recontamination, and when installing the new filter, one small detail, a thin layer of fresh oil on the seal. It ensures proper seating, prevents microleaks, improves long-term stability. Tiny step, massive impact. Now, here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Premium oil alone won't save your engine. You can spend $100 per oil change, buy the best brand, choose the highest grade, and still leave behind contamination every time. Or you use a simple process, free, repeatable, precise, and remove significantly more damage every cycle. Which one actually protects the engine? Because engine wear isn't dramatic, it's silent, gradual, accumulated, and every time you leave particles behind, you accelerate that process. Now imagine repeating this method for years. Cleaner cycles, less buildup, stable surfaces. That's how engines reach extreme mileage, not through upgrades, not through luck, through consistency. And this is why experienced builders don't obsess over oil brands. They focus on flow, timing, and removal. Because oil is only as good as how you use it. And this $1 trick was never about money. It was about control. Control over contamination, control over wear, control over engine lifespan. And now you see it. After today, you're not just changing oil anymore. You're controlling how long your engine lives. If this changed how you think about engine maintenance, share it with someone who still believes oil alone is enough, because this is the part they've been missing the entire time.
And this is where 90% of engines get damaged, right after doing everything correctly. Because people hear the idea and assume they've mastered it. They haven't. Not even close. Here's mistake number 1. They warm the engine, but not enough. This is where most people lose the advantage, because warm is not a feeling, it's a state. Your oil needs to reach full operating temperature. Not just the dashboard needle moving, not just 2 minutes with idling. Oil is thicker than coolant, slower to heat, slower to move contamination. So until it's fully hot, you're not cleaning anything. You're just circulating. This is why professionals don't guess. They drive the car. 5 to 10 minutes. Calm, controlled. Because this is the moment where everything changes. Contaminants that were stuck start moving. Deposits that were settled get lifted. Now the oil is ready. But here's the mistake that ruins everything. They stop and wait. They think, I'll just grab my tools. I'll do it in a minute. And in that minute, everything starts settling again. This is where engines quietly lose lifespan. Right here. Right in that delay. So, here's the rule. Preparation happens first, before the engine is turned off. Drain pan ready, tools ready, access clear. No movement wasted. Because timing is the entire trick. You shut the engine off, and immediately you drain. Not after 5 minutes, not even 2, immediately. This is your window, and it's small. Because right now, the oil is still carrying everything, still loaded, still active. Miss this window, and you're back to a normal oil change. Now, here's mistake number 2, and this one is subtle. People think, let it drip longer equals cleaner engine. It sounds logical, but it's misleading. Because the first 30 to 60 seconds, that's where the damage leaves. Fast flow, high pressure, maximum contamination. After that, you're mostly draining leftover oil, not the real threat. So professionals don't just wait. They watch. They observe the flow. At first, dark, dense, strong. Then it shifts. Lighter, slower, cleaner. That shift is your signal. You've removed the majority. But here's the part almost nobody knows. After draining, some mechanics slightly reposition the car. Not dramatically, just a slight tilt. Because oil pans aren't flat. They have pockets, corners, traps. And those traps hold old oil, contaminated oil. Over time, those areas become buildup zones. This is how sludge begins, not suddenly, but quietly. Now, here's mistake number 3, the oil filter. Most people rush this part or ignore timing completely. But the filter holds dirty oil, and if you remove it at the wrong moment, you reintroduce contamination. So the sequence matters. Drain first, let pressure drop, then remove the filter. This prevents backflow, keeps the system clean. And when installing the new one small detail most skip. A thin layer of fresh oil on the seal. It creates a proper seal, prevents micro air gaps, ensures stability over time. Tiny step, but this is where precision shows. Now here's where everything connects. You've probably been told, use better oil, upgrade to synthetic, buy premium. But here's the reality. You can spend $100 on oil and still leave behind contamination every single time. Or you apply this method, costs nothing, takes no extra tools, and removes significantly more damage every cycle. So, which one actually protects the engine? Because wear doesn't happen all at once. It builds, layer by layer, particle by particle. And every time you leave debris behind, you're shortening engine life. Now imagine doing this right every single oil change. Cleaner system, less buildup, more stability. That's how engines reach extreme mileage. 300,000, 400,000, even 500,000 miles. Not because they're special, but because they were maintained correctly. And this is why experienced builders think differently. They don't obsess over oil brands. They focus on timing, flow, removal. Because oil is just a tool. What matters is how you use it. And this $1 trick was never about money. It was about control. Control over contamination, control over wear, control over lifespan. And now you see it. After today, you're not just changing oil anymore. you're controlling how long your engine survives. And most people will never realize the difference. If this changed how you think about engine maintenance, share it with someone who still believes oil alone is enough, because this is the part they've been missing the entire time.